Talk to me about the beard before we get out of here. I am not a beard guy. I tend to think that beards are a fad whose time has come and gone. But on you, it is really working. I love it.
I would like to see JVL in a beard, and I'm sure one of our folks here can put together an AI of you in the beard.
Hello, everyone. This is JVL here with my buddy Will Saletan, in for Sarah Longwell. Will, people sometimes ask me, when Sarah's not going to be there, how do you pick who's going to be her substitute? The answer is that I tend to go with the colleague who I haven't actually gotten to have a conversation with in the longest time.
Really?
And you and I haven't actually spoken, real spoken in a couple months.
I guess it's been a while. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Our friend Holly wrote a really, really good bit. Did you see her piece about J.D. Vance's twin brother?
I apologize, Holly. I have not read your piece.
So she wrote a very, very good essay, and her debate recap was, it was satire, but it was very astute. And the conceit of her piece was that it was a monologue by J.D. Vance's identical twin brother, who's the one who came to the debate and baked cookies for America. And it's funny because 2 days after the debate, we get video of J.D. Vance at a campaign event where he is suddenly with human beings again and not just being on television. And this guy is following him saying, did Donald Trump win the election? I just want to know, do you think Trump won the election in 2020? And Vance goes, yeah, he did. Yeah. And then gets very petulant and he says to this guy, you know what? I feel sorry for you, man. We're right back to edgelord, whatever makes sense, donut guy. And I find that very, whatever. It's interesting. I think Vance is going to clearly try to inherit Trump's mantle. To my mind, I think he's not nearly as talented a demagogue. He's talented at other things, but he's not talented at throwing red meat the way Trump is.
Your point about Vance in the debate, standing at a podium versus Vance with actual people, this reminds me so much. One of my early campaign reporting trips, I was in New Hampshire and I was reporting on a Phil Gramm event. It was the first time I was up close, not watching someone on the camera, just a reporter there, watching Phil Gramm talk to a TV camera. The camera's right there, and he talked to that thing like it was a human being. It was so impressive to me. Phil Gramm, who had no ability to really connect with people, but he talked to that camera like it was his best friend.
He was making love to it. Make love to the camera, Phil.
So part of what our TV culture has done is we've elevated these human beings to political power who are pathological in not communicating with actual people, but communicating with a box. So, Vance was good at that, and as we saw, terrible in a donut shop. I would love for the next month to be about that the Republicans have the big liability, the big vulnerability of the Trump-Vance ticket is that they believe in the big lie. Well, they're determined to stick to the big lie. Let's put it that way. Trump's determined to keep saying, as he did in Saginaw the other day, I won the election. Vance is determined not just to say what he said in the debate, not that he won't say Trump lost, but to actually say that Trump won, right?
He has to.
I would love to believe that if you and I and other sensible people take that they can't let go of that and focus on that for the next few weeks, there will be enough Americans who will just say, I can't have these people who lie about election results. It's too destabilizing. It's scary. And they're going to vote for Harris. Do you think that's true? Or there just aren't enough of those people?
I don't think that that's true at all. I don't think that anybody cares about it except for us. And my general view is that this is my this is a theory, not an actual view, but my theory of the election is that Harris just needs to be more famous than Trump, and her campaign needs to feel more like a really, really big story that everybody is just obsessed with, and that will pull the margins that she needs and turn people out, and that it is totally divorced from policies or issues or anything like that. The best thing she could be doing is, like, every 3 days, she should have a campaign rally where some gigantic pop star opens for her or something. And so everybody goes, oh, can you believe this? Beyonce just opened for Kamala Harris. Like this, and that you just make it needs to feel like some giant cultural cause that everybody kind of wants to be part of. And that's so the way depressing. Harris gets to 50.5%.
It's so depressing. But it's
Am I wrong? I mean, maybe, like I said, just a theory. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Unfortunately, there's as you're putting forward this proposition, there's a lot of evidence behind your hypothesis, right? There's the period of time during which Kamala Harris skyrocketed was a period of time in which she dominated the news. There was just a momentum, the whole joy thing. And people were not paying attention to Trump. So that is entirely consistent with your hypothesis. And it also, you're coinciding with the advice of my favorite politician, which is Pete Buttigieg. And I kind of watch Mayor Pete and the way what is he modeling in terms of how to think about the election? And what he's modeling is don't take the bait. You may think that Donald Trump, insulting migrants and appealing to the worst in Americans is like that we should talk about that we should point out he's threatening autocracy. He's trying to turn Americans against each other. He hates our country.
Yeah.
And Mayor Pete constantly says, don't talk about that. Talk about abortion and talk about they want big tax cuts for the rich. That's kind of his message.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right, honestly. But it has to be mixed with this is a giant movement, right? I mean, she's going to need to turn out a lot of people who are not traditional voters. And did you read the long Michael Podhorzer thing?
I haven't.
So he has a long essay. I linked to it last week, I think, basically arguing that the election is going to be determined by how well Harris does with people who haven't voted in the last 2 cycles. And that the margins she gets there will probably be determinative. And how do you turn out people who haven't turned out before? Not with policies, right? I mean, you just make it a thing that everybody's doing. It's like the ice bucket challenge on the TikToks, and God help us. I think that's probably what she needs to do. I don't know. I just look at it and I have some sympathy for Harris because she has done something incredibly difficult. And I think she's performed about as well as even the highest variant best case scenario would have suggested pre-Biden debate. So if it's the morning of the Biden debate and I say to you, hey, Will, Biden's going to be so bad tonight that the Democratic Party is going to go into a scramble to try to push him out. And eventually Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee. In a perfect world where what is the best case scenario for how she performs? I think what we've gotten is absolutely close to the best case scenario you could have spun then. Would you agree or no? She hasn't been perfect, but
it has gone better. I'm not surprised by her. I'm surprised a little bit by America. I always thought, so back when Kamala Harris first announced for president in 2019, I really liked her. I was a fan of her. When I was at Slate, I was advocating for her, and it was because she's politically talented. It's not that she's necessarily the best policymaker. That would be a bonus. If she becomes president and is a good policymaker, I will be pleasantly surprised. But she, as a candidate, on offense, just tremendously talented person. Not good on defense. That's why I'm not sorry that she's not doing more interviews. You've seen the Lester Holt interview. She often tightens up, and maybe she's gotten better at it. But I wouldn't have been surprised by the talent that she has displayed. I am surprised by America. I am surprised that people have bought into this because I I would have thought that too many people would just be locked into views about her for various unsavory reasons, and about the Democrats, and about just being sick of the whole Biden administration. Her ability to separate herself, all the time. Joe Biden kind of kept her in a closet. Sorry, Joe, but like that turns out to be useful at the end when she wants to be the change candidate, and Republicans are like, hey, she's been vice president this whole time. And most people are like, really? I mean, I watched all of Sarah's focus groups. People are like, they had no idea she was vice president. I mean, she was there, but like nothing about her. So she reads as new to them.
Yeah. Well, what I was talking about is not just her, but like the campaign she's put together. It's been a very good campaign, right? I mean, it's been strategically and tactically sound. They've put together plans and then executed on them. I mean, it's been great. And if this country was what we used to think it was in 2015, then she'd be at 53-46. This ain't that country. I said this yesterday, and I just keep thinking about it because I sort of stumbled into it by accident. It was the conclusion of what I wound up writing, but I didn't set out to write it. We talk about the guardrails not holding in the Trump era as if that was an unexpected thing. Like, the guardrails failed, like it was a dam failing or something. And I think that this is an example where the rest of us never understood the guardrails. And our operating assumption should have been guardrails will usually fail. And that the guardrails are there because we hope, and because the system, everything is basically the honor system. But you should never count on the guardrails, because the guardrails are people, and you are asking people to self-sacrifice, and that's never a high percentage play. Like, it'll happen from time to time. Like, 1 in 100 will be Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, and Cassidy Hutchinson, but not 20 in 100 won't be them. And just when we think about these things, we think about systems design, we should think about guardrails in particular as the things which are more likely to fail than hold.
So then the simplest solution is multiple guardrails, that you have to break through several barriers. I mean, I'm a fan of we were talking about George Will the other day. George Will used to say, probably still does, gridlock is an American boast. Institutions, like the filibuster, but, having separate, not letting one guy appoint 3 Supreme Court justices so that they can then turn around and give him immunity from crimes, that kind of thing. I think this is true. I'm thinking about yesterday. So Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney do this event in Wisconsin yesterday. And Kamala Harris says of Liz Cheney, she believes in our Constitution, right? And the Constitution is supposed to be this thing that we protect, and the Constitution in turn protects us. It's this system, right? It's a system that... But she also talked a lot about Liz Cheney and her faith in character, the importance of character. We're talking about the character of the leader. And I think this goes to your point, like guardrails, you can't count on the guardrails to protect you from a bad man. And what we've done is we elected a bad man, and we've been spared by the system somehow producing people like George W. Bush, who I had plenty of issues with George W. Bush, but he wasn't a bad man. And if you have a bad man who, you saw, we gave Bush all kinds of surveillance powers and torture powers and stuff like that. You do that with somebody like Trump and, Jesus, the things that can happen. So to me, part of the lesson of what you're saying about guardrails is we got to get the first part right, which is the character of the person we elect. We got to take that seriously, because you can't count on, as you point out, all the other people to stop him.
Yeah, that's the irony of this, is that the guardrails are more likely to hold in cases where they are less important, right? So you can count on the guardrails to hold when you have a high character president doing things that are only minorly wrong, right? Then you could trust that, he wants to issue an executive order that does X, Y, Z. Well, we can trust that the Office of Legal Counsel will, you know what I'm saying? It's only when you get to the part where you really do need guardrails, which is when you just assume that they fail because the costs to the people enforcing them are so high. Great. Talk about that in the comments, guys. Hey, Sarah, there's more show.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Are we still talking? We have more talking?
We're still talking. The talking goes on. But that's only for the people who are inside the Velvet Rope, the Bulwark Plus members.
Oh, they got to subscribe.
Yeah. Tell them to subscribe. Tell the people,
You should subscribe,
Sarah.
Guys. Why wouldn't you subscribe? You get all kinds of things. You get some extra me and JVL. You get some extra me and George Conway. You get JVL's Triad. This is one of the best things the Bulwark offers. I read it at least once or twice a week.
Yes. Go and subscribe. We'd love to have you.